Hold on for a second. What's up, YouTube family? I would like you guys to make sure you like and subscribe to our video. It would help us get into the algorithms so we can be seen and bring more engaging content to you guys. So like I said, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Appreciate you. And welcome to another edition of the Pick and Downs podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zhu and P-Bush. How are you fellas doing?
I'm doing all right, man. That was just an absolutely brutal Sunday night game, man. You know, I couldn't believe they had a chance there at the end, and he made that one throw, Caleb Williams over the middle to Roma Dunze, who dropped a touchdown pass, man. I do got to say this, man. A lot of people are selling out on Caleb Williams. It's so early, man. He's in his second game. I mean, like, relax. You know, the defense looks really good. I do think they're like a top 7-8 defense in the league. I'll get into my DraftKings stuff later, but they could be a nice play this week against the turnover-prone Anthony Richardson. But yeah, man, just an absolutely tough Bears game. Zoo texts me. He goes, man, this looks like every other decent Bears team, man. Elite defense, mediocre offense. I said, man, something's never changed, man. Something's never changed. And Justin Fields, man. Woo-hoo-hoo!
Okay, stop it. Let's slow it down with Justin Fields. Let's slow it down with Justin Fields. Let's slow it down with Justin Fields. Like Caleb Williams, not going to lie, I'm kind of underwhelmed. He looks kind of like trash right now, missing some throws, bad decision-making.
Poor line.
I give the offense line is trash, but you're the number one pick. I saw C.J. Stroud get it done as a rookie.
Yeah, he also has an all-pro left
expectations for the Texans.
Yeah, Laramie Tunsil.
I don't care, man.
He's
the
a
Texans
monster.
had zero expectations. There were expectations this year. You better get it done, Caleb. Comparing yourself to Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. Get it done, Caleb. I want no excuses. I want no excuses out of him. But, yeah, like you said, it's only week 2. Like, give the brother some more time before I make a final decision on if he's considered a bust like what Panthers did with Bryce Young. So, he got a year. He got a year to prove himself. Because if he looks like this in year 2, okay, we got some issues. But we're in year 1, so we got plenty of time for him to develop. But, yeah. But for me personally, it was a good week of fantasy football. 4-1. Shout out to Marvin Harrison Jr. and Devon A. Chang. Shout out to those young brothers showing up because obviously Marvin Harrison, week 1, he got 4 more yards than me, and then he got 2 tutties in a quarter. So this is how you bounce back. This is how you bounce back as a rookie. So shout out to Marvin Harrison Jr. for getting it done with Kyler Murray because that was beautiful to watch. But 4-1 fantasy football league, can't complain. But oh man, losing the home league always hurts a little bit.
I will got to say, those I got to shout out Kaimi Fairbairn, man, because he absolutely carried my fantasy team with 3 50-yard field or 4 field goals, 3 50-yarders.
The kickers this year have been really good. Like from
kickers
50,
have been huge.
Kickers' accuracy has been really good this year.
Yeah, we got to talk about that, Zoo, eventually, because you might need to remove the kicker position if you want to make it really, really competitive. But done that in a couple weeks, man. Done that in a couple weeks.
Tampa kicker he's had some solid outings for me too. I wouldn't say necessarily he won me the weeks, but it's been a nice added pleasure. Like I just guess kickers are getting a whole lot better. But I had a good fantasy week, and I will say Marvin Harrison carried me. Rashid Shaheed carried me also. So it pays to at least with the Shaheed pick. It's more of you did a little bit of homework and you may have taken some value in him. I mean, everybody and their mom drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. high. Do I expect him to have that stat line every weekend? No, but I do expect him to be a receiver 1. So that is nice to see that he has that capability. But coming up first on the pod, we're going to kind of start with kind of a sour note with all the injuries that we experienced. And like I was saying before the pod, it kind of started on Thursday and was just a continuous momentum of just, injuries happening to not just players that are, I guess you say running the mill, star players. And not only are they getting injured, they're getting put on IR. So I wanted to ask the guys, like, who are some of the players for different teams that are contenders that injuries might affect them the most? And P-Bush, you can go ahead and start this off.
Man, I mean, you could talk about this from a team perspective. You could talk from a fantasy perspective. But Isaiah Pacheco, man, breaking his fibula was crucial. I mean, I don't mean to lay into Carson Steele that much, but, he's a good goal line back. He's kind of a fullback, kind of a Kyle Juszczyk, right? I think the Ravens have always used like Alec Ingold, right? Very much true fullbacks that can run the ball a little bit. But, man, he had that fumble. I shout out Andy Reid because he kept feeding him the ball in short yardage even after that fumble, and he was able to convert against the Bengals this past weekend. But Pacheco being out, I was looking at their schedule, man. So he's on IR, right? That's they got to put him on IR.
And they expect him more than like 4 weeks.
More than 4 weeks. But even if you take this into account, Zoo, the Chiefs have an early bye week, which could help him. However, there are 3 games. He plays 3 games or misses 3 games in a row, then the bye week. So not only that, but he has to miss the next game because that is technically the 4th game on IR. And you're talking about bleeding into November for a return. Now, we've talked about the Chiefs a whole lot. Zoo, I know you were a little pissed off at your Chiefs boys this weekend, man. Besides Rashee Rice, and he didn't even have a huge volume game, Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy did absolutely nothing.
Oh, Jesus.
So, and to be fair, talk about a great bounce back week for the Bengals. I mean, you take into account that potential face mask, a couple other things. I know that it was a PI. It was 100% a PI.
Yeah, the last call was a PI.
On 4th down. Initially, I was like, they're calling that, but then it was very obvious. Mm-hmm. But, shout out the Bengals, man. They really returned or came back off that Patriots game. But, they gave it to the Chiefs a little bit, and they rely on Pacheco a lot. They feed him the ball to get the offense going. They feed the ball to get the passing game going, especially. And he's just a hard runner that, sure, they can fit in Carson Steele. And God knows, let's hope to God we don't see Clyde Edwards-Helaire there on the field. No offense. But the guy
Kareem Hunt, watch.
Kareem Hunt, hey, you know what? He might get a contract, man. So
practice squad, man. I'm telling you. Andy Reid gonna trust Kareem Hunt over an undrafted guy.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. No, you're right.
All I gotta say. Undrafted dude with an alligator or a crocodile or Kareem Hunt, he's going Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and it's very possible that he signs that. So yeah, think about your waivers this week, boys. But at the same time, is this going to diminish their entire season? No, because hopefully he'll be able to come back towards the end of the season during what really matters for the Chiefs, and that's the Chiefs playoff run. Right. So I think this is more so for me, a little bit more of a fantasy impact because some people, they took the wide receiver 1 in round 1. You get into round 2, they were looking at Pacheco on that turn or mid round 2, and you take him as your RB1. Woo, you're losing him for at least probably 6 weeks of football. And that is a huge loss heading into potentially only having him back week 9. And you might be in a hole at that point because Zoo knows, man, running back is thin this year and it's banged up. So you might need to make some moves here. Let's hope you drafted some very good depth flyers to make.
Especially with Pacheco, there's no obvious handcuff for him.
Correct.
There's a lot of backfields that have really obvious RB2s. The Chiefs, You got a rookie, you got a guy off waivers, and Kareem Hunt. So who knows who's the guy? Like maybe there's a third guy they bring in. Like you'd never know who the backup is. But yeah, I totally agree with that. For me personally, it was that Thursday night game. That Tua concussion, Mike. When I saw that, I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Obviously, Tua played horrific football. Just absolutely horrific football. Like, I don't know, something against the Bills, he just doesn't play well against the Bills, like, a lot. Like, this dude historically, like Josh Allen, has absolutely owned the Dolphins franchise. Josh Allen didn't even need to do much in that game because James Cook got freaking 3 touchdowns. I mean, he went absolutely nuclear. Like, I did not see that coming. He went nuclear on this team. And the game was open. The game was over in 1/2. Like, to be honest, like it was 20. Like it was just complete domination by the Buffalo Bills. And when Tua was not playing, he had 3 interceptions before that rush. And the reason he went was frustration. And he's like, it was 4th down. And he's like, yo, I'm playing like trash right now. I got to get this freaking first down to get at least 1 touchdown to get some momentum for his team because he feels like he's letting his team down. And he objectively was because when you got guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle not doing well, it's your fault. It's your fault. A lot of bad decision-making. Tua obviously did not left the game with a concussion, but he's currently on IR, so he's probably expected to be back in maybe four weeks at the earliest, but probably going to sit out probably a little longer than that because he's got a history of concussions. They probably had Tyler Huntley, which is really, really interesting because I always thought this guy's a very, very good backup. Because I don't know what was that 7th rounder? That backup quarter,
Skylar Thompson.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. I had to turn off the TV. It was not football in the 4th quarter. It was not football. It made Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle unwatchable because this guy could not throw the ball downfield. It was absolutely pathetic, his performance. So they had to bring a real backup in Tyler Huntley. I'm not sure why this guy just never has a backup, secure job for some reason. This guy always produces, especially when he was on the Ravens. This guy's always a very productive backup quarterback. So great to see him getting the opportunity to be fighting for the backup quarterback position for the Dolphins because they got some real weapons. But we saw the burst of Devon Achane. Like, this guy's got that juice. Like, he's got that speed with Raheem out. Achane got over 20 carries. 20 carries. A lot of
they don't treat him like a workhorse back.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's also an indictment on Jalen Wright, the backup, that they were a little nervous putting the rookie in, especially when they were up. Like, the game was over, but they were still giving Achane the ball because they obviously didn't have full trust in Jalen Wright because they also had other injuries too. So like they lost both their backup running backs, like Raheem, the Dream, and and they lost one more running back. I forgot his name.
Not Jeff Wilson?
Yeah, Jeff Wilson.
Was it Jeff? Yeah, he was questionable, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't have Jeff Wilson. They don't have Raheem. So they lost their reliable backs, their veteran backs. So they didn't trust the rookie. But Devon Achane's speed is for real. And this offense is beautiful to watch. And I was very, very sad for Tua. Very, very sad for fantasy football and the Miami Dolphins because this team's unwatchable without Tua.
Tyreek Hill.
I know. Tyreek Hill shareholder. I was like, yo, CMC. I called that fade the number one pick. I took Tyreek, but then boom, Tua happens. And I'm like, oh, my Lord. Tyreek Valley going for a wide receiver one. I'm putting him at like wide receiver, like 8, 9-ish now. Like, it's a significant drop off because you need a guy that's able to throw the deep ball in. Obviously, it ain't Skyler, and they're bringing a backup quarterback who doesn't know the scheme. And obviously, McDaniel is a little more complicated offensive scheme than the regular scheme. So hopefully, they keep it basic and just get the ball to Tyreek and let him cook. So for me, that injury, I'm just like, man, that's a huge, huge blow for the Dolphins, and it could have been easily prevented if Tua didn't lose composure and go for that first down because he forced that. Yeah, and he took the hit, and it wasn't even that big of a hit. If you watch the hit by DeMar Hamlin. It was like a very football play. It wasn't even
ironically.
That's
ironically. Like DeMar Hamlin knocks out Tua, might end his career, but Tua said he wanted to play. I commend him for that, obviously, because he got his contract. He could easily retire because of football injury and get his money, but he's like, no, I want to play for this team, so I commend him for that. And obviously, just play smart, man. No need for you to get any rushing yards. I want 0 rushing yards every game from Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
Like 0 rushing yards or -1. That's all I want from Tua. So
get that kneel down at the end of the game.
Exactly. Throw their ball to your playmakers. You got guys like Achane, Tyreek, and Wilder. Let them do the running.
Yep.
You can chill in the pocket. That's your job. Chill in the pocket and make a decision. So I'm rooting for Tua to come back and see this Dolphins team because they're a lot more fun when he's in the lineup.
For all of our listeners, I just want everyone to know that Zhu told me last week that Tyreek Hill is untradeable from his team, and I have a feeling that something might be able to be reached at this point now.
No, that's like an automatic.
That's an automatic.
Yeah, that's an automatic trade.
Too, man.
Yeah.
Oh man, not gonna lie, you got the Tua injury, then fucking Tyreek. I got Puka on IR. The team is falling apart right now. The team is falling apart. Thank God for Alvin.
Alvin Kamara carrying. Yeah.
No, Alvin is still one of them ones. He proved that on Sunday. He'll be.
I tried to tell you boys in Dynasty I wanted him, but he went too pricey for me.
He's been in the league for a while too, and is still producing at a high level. So, he's a fantasy monster. But yeah, I'm with you on Tua. Tua is one of the ones where you could just tell once like the game started getting out of hand, he was just pressing, and then when at the moment where he hit DeMar Hamlin and he fell on the ground, it's just like it's just a tough sight to see because it just happened. Not too like I think that was last year when he had the whole thing with the last year when he had that or 2 years ago?
2 years ago. 2 years ago.
We had that kind of just on the ground like helpless. It's like I'd said it on Twitter. I was like, I think Tua is gonna have to have some conversations with his management team because I know everybody's like, well, it's just like a couple concussions, but it's like I don't know if at least me as a fan can stomach a third one of him because now people forget in college he had a massive concussion too at Alabama. Like it was just his first one, so it was kind of like, people have concussions, but it's your first one. You'll go through the protocol and then you'll be fine and whatever. But now that he's had 2 more that were worse than the one he had at Bama, his team, Mike McDaniel, whoever, they need to have a real sit down because I know he's on IR and he wants to play, and that's his right. He gets to play, but he needs to look in the mirror like, is this worth it? Because it's like, what if on the third one he doesn't get up? Then it's not worth it. So it's like you've had 3 massive head injuries. You might have to sit down with somebody and be like, yo, bro, hang it up. I know you just got paid. I don't know what the litigation is. I don't know what happens with the contract. That's above my pay grade. But he needs to have a real conversation because, God forbid it happens on the 4th one.
And with his family. But just talk to your family too, dude. I'm
pretty sure his family.
not be a vegetable, but at 50 years old, do you want to, you're trying to take your kids to college and you can't, like, you know what I mean? Things like that. It's just
scary.
You got to take
and
that
I'm pretty sure if he goes out there and plays as a Tua decision, because I'm pretty sure his family's probably, I think after the last one, his family's like, nah, we're good. But he, whatever. And at that time, he hadn't got his contract yet either. So, he got his contract. So we'll see. But for me, it prompted last night watching the Eagles versus the Falcons game. We were talking about that before the pod. I'm a little nervous if I'm an Eagles fan with A.J. Brown's injury, considering it's a hamstring and they're saying multiple weeks. Because as much as I love Devontae Smith, that offense is just not the same without A.J. Brown. Saquon was doing his thing. He was getting his yards, and he's looking like one of those fantasy guys that was a good investment. Now, I know it's early in the season and running backs wear down, but he looks really good. So I'm not speaking from that aspect, but I just think for Jalen's sake, him having A.J. on the field with Devontae, it helps Dallas Goedert. It just makes that offense look a whole lot better. And like I've always said, I think the world of Kellen Moore. But it was a struggle a little bit on certain aspects that throwing the ball, just like with the weapons he had out there, was really perplexed seeing Jahan Dotson. I don't know if he was injured or what, but I didn't see him get any run.
Right? He was catching everything.
Yeah, I don't know who that was. They kept throwing like receiver kind of screens or whatever to him and stuff. And
to the left side, they kept doing that play. It wasn't that effective, but they kept doing it.
I don't know if they were just trying to stretch the defense, and that was helping Saquon. But I didn't see Jahan Dotson getting any run, and that kind of worries me because if he's out for say 2 to 3 weeks, I mean, I don't know if anybody's looked at the Eagles' schedule, or not schedule, but the record the last 9 games. I saw this online. They're 2-7, and I'm not saying A.J. Brown was hurt in all those games, but if you don't have A.J. Brown there, you already got a head coach who's kind of on the hot seat. You're working now. You're telling me that the next 2 to 3 games, A.J. Brown's not there, and your number one option is Devontae, whoever that guy was, and Dallas Goedert. That ain't gonna get it.
We got to play next. New Orleans Saints, man.
Yeah, who's hot?
The game.
They're hottest.
We all would have assumed that would be not a blowout, but a pretty easy win for the Eagles.
Yeah.
And even taking into account A.J. Brown, if he was healthy, I still think this would end up being
still a tough game. Yeah.
But
down in that dome?
This makes it another level. The only good thing they have going for him there is Marshawn Lattimore might still be out. Not 100% sure of his
But the Kool-Aid McKinstry guy, he's really good. I was watching him when they were playing against Dallas. Like, he was making all kind of plays. So I think their defense is like one of those that, I guess because it's New Orleans and they're in the crappy division, NFC South, but New Orleans usually always has a really good defense. Like they always bring it on that side of the ball, and it starts with Demario Davis. He's just a stalwart
Cam Jordan
in the middle. Yep. Yeah, they're just stalwarts in that defense. So yeah, even with A.J. Brown, that would have been a tough game. So I'm kind of worrying to see what the Eagles do. Like if he's out for 2 to 3 weeks, how is that going to work? Because Jalen needs all the help he can get in terms of weapons. So when you take away a receiver who can pretty much run the entire route tree, it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust. So, because Nick Sirianni, I'm telling you, if the Eagles get to a point where they're looking at like 2-4 starting out, like they might do a midseason fire. Because I think everybody's kind of over the Sirianni show. And like I said, I think the world of Kellen Moore. I like him as offensive coordinator. I wouldn't be surprised if they just try to intern him as the head coach and get him running around. Because I think he's tracking that way anyway. So, but yeah, it was just a brutal, couple of days for injuries. And like I said, Tua was the one that probably stuck out the most to me because it happened on Thursday night. Side note, I did call the Bills money line if you watch that. Like you said, Josh Allen owns. He owns Tua. That was just like easy money. Not even easy money. That's free money.
I don't even know why. It was easy money because you got plus money, and it was no doubt. It wasn't like a competitive game. It was like watching the game. I was like, yo, they just look so much better.
Yeah. So the injuries were a big deal, but like I said, hopefully a lot of these guys that potentially go on IR that are going to go on IR, but they might end up being on IR. It's a speedy recovery. We can get our fantasy teams in act, and more importantly, the teams can play. So, going from that, speaking of the Saints, we were talking about them just a couple seconds ago. They're on fire. They've been making statement after statement for the past couple weeks, and so have the Minnesota Vikings with their quarterback in Sam Darnold. So I thought it was interesting because I was just reading through stats. It's 2 weeks in, but I was just reading through a couple of stats and looking at where the quarterbacks are, stacking up against each other. And I was like, Sam Darnold coming into the season, I don't think a lot of people had faith in him. They're just like, okay, he's another journeyman quarterback. We'll see what he does with the Vikings. And Derek Carr, he had a little bit of a hot seat because most people in, I guess you would say, New Orleans were probably like, he's a starting quarterback, but he's not a guy that maybe get us over the hump. Well, both of these guys are ripping and running, and I wanted to ask, just for this year, we're not talking about career going forward 5 years down the road. I'm just saying, in this year, based on how they started, who are you riding with for the rest of the season? Zhu, who are you going with, Derek Carr or Sam Darnold?
I'm going with the surprise team of the year, man, the New Orleans Saints quarterback, Derek Carr, who is the MVP after 2 weeks. He's the MVP. He's the MVP right now. Like, his QBR out of 100, 96.2. That is absurd. That is actually absurd. He has 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. And I'm not going to lie, he's been just whooping ass. Like, obviously, the Carolina Panthers, we know that atrocity over there. So I'm like, okay, they blew it on 47-10. But this 44-19, I don't think anybody saw this coming, even the most optimistic Saints fan. Because I was watching this, I was like, I think this actually be a pretty good game. Absolute massacre. As a Dak Attack owner, Dak Attack didn't know nothing to that Saints defense. And Derek Carr, he was throwing, like, Derek Carr is known for the deep balls.
Yep.
He found his guy Shaheed, man. That first bomb I was playing against Shaheed, I was like, oh Lord, it's over. It's over. When Rashid Shaheed is dropping nukes in the first half of football, I'm like, it's over for my team. But this guy got 96 yards, and pretty much his passing, like, they didn't need to do much after. The first. It
was just Kamara.
Yeah, it was just Alvin Kamara, 20 carries for 153. But Derek Carr, his efficiency, he's have over a 70% completion percentage right now. He leads the league in passer rating at 142. Like, his yards per pass, so he ain't dicking and dunking. 11.4. That's first in the NFL. So he ain't dicking and dunking like Mr. Caleb Williams. He's throwing it down right now. His yards per completion, 14.8. That's third. So right now, in all facets of the game, this Kubiak guy, who is this guy? Who is this coordinator?
Clint
He changed the game. Yeah. Like, the Saints, like, this does not look like the team from last year. And this is the one thing that I respect the most in football is coaching. Like, NBA coaching, whatever, give it to LeBron, you get it done. Not much coaching need. In football, the schemes, the creativity, especially on offense and defense, the game plan that you have to do, like the work that you got to put in watching game film and putting your quarterback in the situation to get it done, a lot of this is coaching. And obviously, Derek Carr is benefiting from the coordinator change right now. And he's playing phenomenal football. You can say nothing wrong about Derek Carr right now.
No.
Like, nothing wrong. Like you got Chris Olave having a good game. Like, this guy is utilizing his weapons. Obviously, Alvin Kamara did a lot of the heavy lifting with that nice little 57-yard because he
had the rushing touchdown.
Yeah, and the rushing touchdown. But Derek Carr as captain right now, thinking like when he lost Devontae Adams and then he had a pretty bad year last year, objectively, like a pretty bad year. Is Derek Carr just a product of Devontae Adams for those nice seasons? But no, like, this guy is having a phenomenal rejuvenation after last year's underwhelming performance, and he's having a ridiculous start. And I don't think this is a fluke. I think like this division is open season. Like the Falcons, like, come on, like, this is an open division to win right now. And Derek Carr is playing phenomenal football, and he's the MVP after only 2 weeks, but. Yep. He's playing phenomenal football. Like, a 96 QBR is actually absurd. It's actually absurd.
Yeah, I mean, I
want to pick up in fantasy right now because I'm struggling at the QB position. That's all I got to say. I'm struggling. I have Justin Fields and a couple of Dak Attack, not getting it done. I see 12 points a week. Jared Goff. Oh my Lord, I want to die at the QB position. Every single week. 11 to 12 points a game. That's the ceiling right now in my quarterback position.
Well, Zoo, that's what you get for passing on Josh Allen, man. But to be fair, he only had 10.
Yeah. Josh Allen didn't do too hot this past week either.
I didn't have to.
The quarterback position this year is very, very weird. A league low in passing touchdowns, passing yards after 2 weeks of football. And you got Derek Carr looking like a Hall of Famer. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully these other quarterbacks start stepping it up because offense has been down.
Kind of reminds me of when, like, those years when Ryan Tannehill would just start cooking, and you're like, what the hell's going on, man? But yeah, and to be fair, that's actually a good comparison because he had Derrick Henry and Derek Carr has Alvin Kamara at his disposal. Yeah. So, I'm going to agree with you. If I'm betting on a guy, I'm for sure going Derek Carr, but I'm going to talk about Sam Darnold because I don't think we're giving him enough credit, man, especially for that last game because injuries. I mean, Jordan Addison's been out. Obviously, we know Hawkinson isn't coming back for at least 10 until after week 10, probably. And then Justin Jefferson gets injured after that beautiful 97-yard bomb that he threw from his own end zone. When I saw that throw, I was like, okay, Sam Darnold might actually be cooking with Justin Jefferson this year, man. So, I think we do got to shout him out. There was that one throw I think that he had to Jalen Naylor down the middle.
Oh, yeah.
He was just staring down pressure, and he threw an outside shoulder down the middle of the field with 3 guys on the interior defending, and he just took the hit and made that throw. I mean, I think we got to give him credit. They're atop the division, week 2. I understand the Lions will probably get their act together. We know the Bears have a pretty good defense. Packers should get back on track when Jordan Love's back under the helm. And the Vikings will probably falter, especially once they get into those divisional matchups. But I'm backing up Sam Darnold here because I think a lot of people just immediately wrote him off and maybe not having any pressure on him anymore. At this point in his career, he has no pressure to perform, was not expected to be the starter, maybe competing with J.J. McCarthy during training camp until the injury, and maybe forcing him to kind of just get better and maybe have McCarthy learn under him. Well, Sam Darnold's showing that he can actually produce fantasy relevance for his offense, which I actually had faith in him. I thought Aaron Jones, I thought he was going to have a decent year, and I did think Justin Jefferson was going to live up to the hype. But I didn't think the down the play ability would be there. And once Addison comes back, this offense could be pretty damn good. So, I don't have all the numbers compared to Derek Carr. Obviously, he's top of the class in the QB position right now.
He's not far behind, though. Sam Darnold.
He's not far behind. He may have thrown, I think he might have thrown 2 or 3 picks, maybe 2 picks.
Yeah,
but
4 touchdown, 2 picks.
Hey, for 2 weeks, that's fine. I mean, they obviously were able to rely on Aaron Jones in week 1 more so against the Giants. Kind of a similar thing to the Saints. But one thing about that, though, Zhu, we always talk, and we talk maybe more about this with the NBA, but the whole point when you're playing a bad team, you can't play down to the competition. You have to handle your business, right? Because, we've talked about the Bulls doing that over the years, man. They always play up and they play down. Well, the Saints did their job and they blew out the Carolina Panthers. So that's a positive sign because it shows consistency. I mean, they're averaging 45 and a half points a game right now. I mean, that's just absurd against a defense that absolutely cooked the Browns in week 1 in Dallas, right? So I am going to go with Derek Carr as my answer, but I think we do have to give a lot of credit to Sam Darnold, putting aside all the noise that he's heard over the past handful of years, moving from location to location, and say, sure, maybe he's a good journeyman backup, but he is a viable starter when called upon. And I think that's really all you can ask for as the Minnesota Vikings this year is kind of a bridge year.
And I have to mention the head coach. Kevin O'Connell, this guy's a hell of a head coach.
Hell of a head coach,
maximizing guys.
He's a good guy. Yeah.
Especially for these non-superstar quarterbacks, head coaching matters a lot more because there's a lot of average quarterbacks. But to maximize these guys, you need a legitimate franchise and a coaching tree and a coaching system to design around them. Because you see guys that leave the Carolina Panthers, aka Baker Mayfield, looked awful, and now he's thriving in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sam Darnold, he's now thriving with the Minnesota Vikings. So a lot of it, when you don't have that, like if Brock Purdy was on the Carolina Panthers,
yes.
Right, so a lot of it's related to your situation with these guys that aren't the elite guys like a Josh Allen or Mahomes. Like these guys that are just guys, but these guys, you got a good coaching system. You can win with just guys in NFL.
And Zhu, because you brought up Clint Kubiak, right? The Saints coordinator, man, or the head. Is he the head coach officially?
He's a
the offensive coordinator, right? Yeah. Guess who he was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for in 2019 through 21? The Minnesota Vikings, man, getting Kirk Cousins back on track after leaving Washington and flourishing Justin Jefferson's 2021 season.
Yep.
I mean, that was when he popped off. Great news for Shaheed. Great news for Olave. Yep. I think sky's the limit for the Saints team in a division that we all immediately put the Falcons in, and we penciled in. Zoo, I don't think you were on that one, but Sean and I said, maybe the Bucs a little bit, but we were like, Falcons going to win the division, blah, blah. Well, now you got 3 teams that are going to be fighting probably around that.
Just 3 teams. There's only 3 teams in that division.
Of course, yes. But I'm saying but they all could be around that 10-7 area because I do think the Saints will cool off. I'm sure that they will.
Yeah, this pace is ridiculous.
Pace is ridiculous. However, that division is going to end up being a lot tighter than we expected. Besides the Panthers, of course.
Yeah. I'm with you. It's Derek Carr. That's why I was leaning. It's just you can't start off the season like he has and expect, you're going to expect the drop off, but I also think that the coordinator is important because he's involving other guys in the offense. Like, no duh. you get the ball to Kamara. But, I mean, Jamal Williams is going to get his carries. I'm pretty sure when Kendra Miller comes back off of IR, he's going to get involved to make Kamara even more of an explosive back, just to spell him, because he brings a different type of dimension as a running back. Like I said, Rashid Shaheed had moments last year, but I think the reason why he's flourishing is because of their offensive coordinator. And I think he eventually, with Shaheed trending, like, I don't think, basically in fantasy perspective, I don't think he's going to be getting 20 points a game every game, but I do think he's going to be involved more, and like him being on end of rounds and things of that nature when I was watching the game. I think there's been a concerted effort to get him the ball because it's just going to open up Olave a lot, because I do think the offensive coordinator probably saw that Olave was their dude last year, and defenses are going to kind of try to take him out of the game. So the only way you can free him up is if you get Rashid Shaheed in motion, doing different types of things, because he's an explosive athlete. And I just think that's a testament to the offensive coordinator that they have there. So Derek Carr, redemption year, like I said, it is very, very, very early. But I do like the confidence he's playing with. He's trusting all of his weapons. I think he can kind of continue this momentum. And I do agree with Sam Darnold. He is still, to me, a journeyman quarterback. But that, I think his situation speaks more to the head coach, which is what I was going to say before you guys kind of talked about it. Like, that division, like him and the Packers coach, I just forgot his name, but
Matt LaFleur.
Like, LaFleur, like I mean, look what he did with Malik Willis in that game against the Colts. Like, the Colts defense is not trash. So it's like the fact that he was able to get out of there at home against Malik Willis or against the Colts defense, like I've always been a fan of the guy who was offensively inclined as your head coach, because that is what the league is doing. When you're talking about any young quarterback, you need to have a guy who is great on that side of the ball, because it's just a different dynamic when they're on the field of play. I just feel like, say the quarterback goes out there and throws an interception. Like, if you're dealing with the defensive coach, he's probably just going to be looking at the quarterback like, what are you doing? Like, fix it. Like, just do something better. And it's like, no, when you have an offensive guy, he's going to come in there, they're going to get to the iPad and they're going to say, look, this is what you did wrong. I saw it before you threw it. It's just a different type of calming influence. So I'm always a fan of coaches. Like I said, I know they have offensive coordinators and they have defensive coordinators. I understand that, but having your head coach as the mainstay is like, hey, this is who is the influence of the team, and then that is connected to your quarterback. I just think that's I don't want to say it's a cheat code, but I think it's a perfect, match made in heaven. So
the only one is Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. That was really the only.
But I also think too, they hired the wrong guy. They should have hired the coach, the Colts head coach. Now I don't know what the hierarchy was. I don't know what it was like. How that worked, but they hired the wrong guy, because I do think if he was running Philadelphia, he'd probably be the guy that's doing it. But they might have found a gym with Kellen Moore. Like I said, I don't have trust and believe. I'm not saying Kellen Moore is like this, next, top 5 head coach, but I just like how he runs an offense. And to me, I don't think it's an accident that Saquon is trending towards having one of his better years. And when they had, I guess was that week 1 against the Packers, that offense did look pretty good outside of Jalen throwing some moon balls at the beginning of the game. But I think he has a chance. So I'm gonna lean with Carr, but I am very excited to see where this goes, because I'm gonna tell you, if Sam Darnold ends up playing this way and Derek Carr ends up playing this way, like, it's gonna change some, it's gonna change some minds. Or like, what are we looking at playoff pictures? Like I said, it's week 2, but I don't know. Like, it's shocked. Like, Derek Carr was probably the most shocking, because I just was for sure think it's going to be at mid-year and he's going to get ran out of town. I just for sure thought that. Sam Darnold is like, I just thought he was going to steady the ship. Now he's playing above that. But Derek Carr, I thought it was over. I just thought,
Especially last year. Well, I remember the arguments with teammates and wide receivers and yelling at each other, which is bad. Like, it was bad juju, bad vibes. But
you know what it is, man? They just need a Michael Thomas, man. Just be gone. That's the only thing I can.
I forgot he ain't there no more. Yeah, that might have been what it was.
And that honestly unlocked chemistry. That for sure unlocked Shaheed. And I was adamant about that before the season. I said, this guy is going to get more looks because they don't have a stud tight end and they don't have a stud third receiver. So it was going to be the big fly guy and then Olave.
They got Taysom Hill, man. They paid him that contract.
He's a running back now at this point.
What position is he?
They barely use him now. They barely use him.
Because Kamara's cooking, man.
What was that contract he got? It was like 5 years it was a crazy
$70 million.
Yeah, it was. No, I think he got. Didn't he get like $100 million? I think he got a huge number. It was crazy. He got a crazy.
If they're still winning games and they can eat an $100 million tight end running back gadget guy contract. That's like giving
4
Cordero
years,
Patterson
140.
Yeah, he got a crazy deal. Yeah,
5 years, 140.
Yeah, $140 million.
I told you it was a crazy.
I'm not sure.
Jamar Chase can't get paid.
I don't understand this. I actually don't. 4 years, 140. Like, this is like Tyreek Hill money, and this guy's. I don't know what this guy's doing, but I guess he does blocking or something. I don't know. You're like, oh, he does it all.
You know what? Maybe there's a huge guaranteed clause in there.
There is some finagling with that number.
He don't get that till the end of that contract.
Yeah,
probably.
There's some finagling
if he's any good.
A lot of incentives.
Really quick, I just thought of this because we were just talking about quarterbacks. If you was Miami, would you trade for Russ?
No.
You just ride with Huntley?
No.
I'm going to ride with Huntley.
I'd probably ride with Huntley because it's not like it might not be the end of the season.
He's on IR, so it might be 4, maybe 5 weeks. So it's not like for the whole season.
If Huntley's
a good backup.
2-2.
Every time I think he's a good backup. Every time
he's a good backup.
Yeah.
I was just thinking because of like down the field, Russ maybe could give you something with Tyreek, but I'd still stick with Huntley. Like
I like Tyler Huntley.
He might be cooked. Yeah, you're right. He might be cooked.
Russ
might be cooked.
And he's not even healthy.
He's not healthy either.
No.
They don't need another injured quarterback.
Granted, though, his salary would only be $1 million. So
that's what I'm about to say. It's just like it's whatever. But I don't know. But yeah, like I said, those two quarterbacks. We'll see how this maybe bring this conversation back up in Week 10 to see if they're having the same success. So shout out to Derek Carr and Sam Darnold. But now we're about to get into our Week 3 bets.
There is no nobility in poverty. I have been a rich man and I have been a poor man, and I choose rich every fucking time.
And Peebles, go ahead and start us off with your
the
parlay.
15x my money. 15x my money this week, man. $20 in entries turned into $300. Real nice.
Oh, really? Oh, nice. Nice.
I hit literally every single player was balling. But the stack that I told you guys last week, of course, Cooper Kupp gets injured, and that just completely shuts down Stafford.
And he was cooking.
And he was cooking.
4 catches, like 30-something yards in like the first quarter.
The first quarter.
He was cooking.
He was absolutely cooking. Matt Stafford, but that's the thing. Still finished top 10 in 2 different contests with similar lineups. Even with that, only I think it was like 15 combination points between the two of them. But it was at the likes of Jordan Mason, Malik Neighbors. We did not mention him. He is looking real nice, and he is a target hound, man. He had 19 targets.
19? I think
it might be 16. I thought it was 19, but no, 19 was Amon-Ra. That's what it was. But yeah, and then obviously Chris Godwin had a monster game on that nice 40-yard bomb.
He's back in the slot.
Beautiful. But I will say, and I mentioned this earlier about the potential Bears defense, man. The Packers defense was the biggest. Oh, and then Kamara. I did have Kamara at 2% owned. He was only 2% owned this week because they thought Dallas was going to shut him down, and he didn't. But Packers defense, man, if you can find that really cheap defense that's playing a turnover heavy prone guy, even if they can put up points, and that's why they're priced the way they are. The Packers defense was huge for me this week. So heading into this week, I usually like to, as you guys know, focus on very high-scoring games, kind of pulling guys from those games. Well, games to be targeting this week, we got Cardinals-Lions. I think that's the best scoring matchup. We already talked about the Saints and Eagles this week. I think that's another big one. And then I think it's America's Game of the Week this week with the Ravens and Cowboys, which should be a pretty damn good showdown as well. Starting from that first game, man, my stack is going to be Kyler and Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones.
Marvin Harrison.
Marvin Jones.
Hey, man, he had some good seasons, man. But Marvin Harrison Jr., man, he did not have a huge price increase. He's still below some of the bigger names like we've seen, the CeeDee Lambs, etc. Obviously, beyond the first quarter, he didn't really do much, but it didn't mean that he wasn't getting targets. So I just think they're going to have to throw this ball a lot. We know the pressure that Aiden Hutchinson and that line can get on quarterbacks. I like the mobility of Kyler with the rushing upside there. They're also extremely good against the rush, speaking on the Lions. So James Conner might have a bit quieter of a week. I think they're going to have to rely on the passing game a bit more, especially in the red zone area. So McBride, MHJ, those are kind of 2 guys I'm looking at for plays. And then a guy that a guy that we really have liked to hate on this podcast. I actually think he's going to have a good week, and that's Tony Pollard, man. I think Tony Pollard against the Packers.
I agree.
One, I think the game script is going to be good for him. I think Malik Willis is not going to be able to do what he did last week. They benefited heavily from Anthony Richardson throwing 3 picks, and they were lucky to squeak out that game, even with that touchdown towards the end of the game.
Very low-scoring game.
Very low-scoring game. I think it's going to be a Tony Pollard game. Tyjae Spears also out, or questionably, probably going to be out this week. So I think – and he's had 15 and 18 points respectively in PPR format. So, I mean, he could end up having that nice little 20-piece game. For those that don't know, you hit 100 rushing yards, 100 receiving yards, you get a 3-point bonus. So it's a lot of volume based there, especially in running game scripts. And then lastly, man, kind of targeting Jauan Jennings actually is my cheap wide receiver play. Yoshevus was my cheap play. He's the other one, and the reason I won games. The Bengals guy had 2 touchdowns, man, for 3,800. Jauan Jennings, we talked about Debo. He's the second wide receiver there without McCaffrey as well. They're going up against I forget who the 49ers are playing this week. Oh, the Rams. They're playing the Rams.
Yeah, Rams. Yeah, Rams.
Well, I think Brandon Ayuk's going to get a lot of coverage. I think Jauan Jennings could be a nice cheap play. Greg Dortch, if you want to include him with Kyler as well, could also be a nice cheap play as well. So let's hope another big payout this week, fellas.
Wow, big time payout. Big time. Yes, I think all 3 of us had a good week on that.
Yeah, a good week.
Yeah, against that Chargers.
Finally.
Barbecue.
For real, finally.
Yeah. 3 for 30.
Chargers.
3 for 30. I think I remember because I remember looking at I was at 6.5. On Sunday it dropped to 4.5. So when I made the bet, I got even more juice on the 6.5 bet. So that was an easy money hit. But I'm like Panthers, barbecue chicken. Chargers are legit. Good quarterback, good head coach, good scheme, barbecue chicken. So that was an obvious pick. This week, though, for the spreads, kind of tougher. Like, not gonna lie, last week is super, super easy for me to pick, but I'm looking through the spreads. A lot of these spreads, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like these are a couple of very like even games, like -2.5, -1s. Like even some of the blowouts, -6.5, -5. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna stay away from those. I'm gonna go to good old reliable Kansas City Chiefs. -3.5 Kansas City Chiefs at the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep.
I know the Atlanta Falcons national TV, they pulled off the miracle. Yeah, like that was the Eagles defense being Swiss cheese. Kansas City
on the road.
Yeah. There, I don't care on the road, wherever. Kansas City get it done, man. Buy a tutty, man. I'm telling you right now, Kansas City Chiefs were not impressed against the Cincinnati Bengals.
No.
Like they were lucky to, as you mentioned, that PI obviously got them. It was 4th down, 4th and long, and they got a PI. And pretty much Harrison Butker is one of the clutchest kickers I've ever seen in my entire life. We've seen this story before, so they were lucky to get that win. So I feel like going to be extra focused against this Falcons team where, like Kirk Cousins, like I know Kirk Cousins had that drive, but Kirk Cousins is not Kirk Cousins off Achilles. Yeah, like he still needs time. He's still got some rust. Obviously, he can't move barely at all. Like every time he moves on the pocket, he's just not the same quarterback right now. And this Kansas City Chiefs defense is way better than the Philadelphia Eagles. It's just, I think it's just way better on a different level. Like the offensive line for Falcons, like the Eagles could not touch this dude. I feel like Kansas City with Chris Jones, they could bother Kirk Cousins a little more. And when you got a quarterback that's not mobile, you got problems. Like Kirk Cousins had all day to throw, and he struggled until that last drive to his guys. Like you got guys like Kyle Pitts, who I don't know about this dude anymore in fantasy football or real life football anymore. Because this guy
who first gets that.
Yeah, oh my Lord. Like I have him like, oh Lord, Jesus Christ. It is not fun to watch this guy. Like Brock Bowers over this guy any day of the week. Any day. That guy looks like a beast. But Kyle Pitts, I don't think he's really that dude. Like you got Darnell, cute little story, got that nice little deep ball tutty, like Drake London, obviously a big receiver. But I feel like this Chiefs, like we have not seen a good offensive showcase yet.
No Pacheco.
I know there's no Pacheco. But like I told you, I know people like Pacheco. It's the scheme, man. All I want is a running back. This is number 1. No fumbling. No fumbling. That's number 1 rule. No fumbling. They just need a guy at the goal line, and they maybe punch it in. But with Pacheco out and with the situation at running back, I think Mahomes going to have to go MVP Mahomes and start airing it out against this Atlanta Falcons team, where the second day I'm not that scared of it. And I'm still waiting for that Travis Kelce big game. It's going to happen. Like,
yeah, that's the elephant in the room.
He has been non-existent.
Zhu knows. He's an owner.
Oh, yeah, I'm an owner. Like, at the turn, I got Kelce, who's a 0, and I got Kamara, who's a god right now. So, like, Travis Kelce, man, you still got the juice. I know one of the plays he had a 40-yard, but I got called back some penalty. So I still think he got the juice. He's going to have a big game. Finally. Like, the third week's the charm. Like, Kelce, I don't need these. Like, what do you have? Like, less than
fast track.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, I'm just like, Kelce's going to have a good game. Rashee Rice has been awesome this year. Just absolutely awesome. You saw that straight, like, he had a fly route. Like, this guy could do it all right now. Like, Rashee Rice taking over as alpha number 1 receiver. Xavier Worthy's more still the gadget guy they use around. Like, he ain't no Tyreek Hill yet, but he's a little gadget guy that they can use to speed around. But Kansas City Chiefs, they're gonna beat this team by a tutty, man. So I'm taking the points 3.5. Like 2.5 would have been nicer. Not gonna lie. Yep. I see that 2.5 field goal. Harrison Butker. Yep, that would have been nicer. But I'm gonna eat that 1 point. Minus 3.5. I think it's gonna be a relatively higher scoring game, so I'm willing to take it. And Mahomes, he's been awful this year. He's been awful. Last week he was awful. I think he's one of the worst performances I've ever seen from Mahomes.
Let's be honest, Zoo. He hasn't had a good fantasy game in a long time.
Yeah, last year too. I thought this year was going to be a breakout season. Not so far. Like, obviously against the Ravens, the team he owned, like, he didn't really need to go superhuman 24-8, only 1 touchdown. But the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm sorry, 2 interceptions, QBR of a 31. Like,
to be fair, one of those picks was absurd.
Yeah, one-handed. Odell Beckham-esque, I got to give it to. But and Mahomes, without the PI, he would have had another interception. Like, dude, like, I need that game. Like, I know you're that great, but right now in the regular season, I haven't seen greatness.
No.
I've not seen greatness, and I feel like this Atlanta is the perfect opportunity to get back on track. So, Kansas City Chiefs minus 3.5, man. I'm swallowing the points.
Travis Kelce needs to show up in this game, because if he doesn't, we're going to, not even just from a fantasy perspective, we're going to start maybe have some questions about, like, what is his impact and role going to be on the team? Because it just kind of seems like, which I kind of first guessed at the beginning of the season, Patrick's doing a lot of, like, he's a point guard. Like, he's, like, distributing to other players and getting points that way. So I don't know if it's just maybe they're playing possum right now and it's going to take them a little bit of time to figure it out, because they have chemistry. So I just don't know why he's starting out the gate so slow. But like I said, just reviewing mine from last week, like I said, not only did I have the Buffalo money line, that Bucks +7, like, I kind of hinted towards that they would cover, but I was like, if you had a little gumption and took that money line, you had a very nice payday, because they I wouldn't say they dominated from start to finish.
It was very competitive.
They definitely showed, like, hey, we're going to be a team that's competitive in the NFC this year. So I just had a good feeling, because how. And I don't think Mike Evans had really a big game that game.
Nope.
I just like how Baker played in that first game. And like I said, Godwin came up and, carried the load. So for me, it's like they're going to be a good team to maybe monitor now, especially if they, like, maybe win some, lose some, kind of like even out. Because I just always feel like they have a chance to have an explosive game if those two guys are going. So I was very happy about those 2 picks. But this week, like I said, it was very interesting looking at some of these lines, because there was a lot of, like, +1s, -1s, like +2, +3. Went a lot of them that I liked a lot. But I'm going to go more so off the momentum. I don't know if you guys caught the Cardinals. I mean, everybody watched the Marvin Harrison Jr. highlights, but that game was a smacking of epic proportions in terms of the Rams. Yes. Like, I know Cooper Kupp got hurt, but, like, the Cardinals came out there and was like, oh, this is our division opponent. Yeah, this is our division opponent. We're going to bury them. That's how they came out and played. Yeah,
their defense looks decent.
Showed up.
Yeah.
That's the biggest surprise for me, not their offense.
And that's part of the reason why with this Detroit game that's coming up, spread on that's +3. I think the money line was anywhere from, like, +125, +130. So you can play on both of those sides. But I like the Cardinals in this one, because not only did their defense show up, not only did Marvin Harrison have his big game, James Conner did what he did. Now, it might be a little tougher with that defense on the defensive line, but Kyler looked very comfortable making off-platform throws, running around, running inside the pocket. Like, he looked really good. So, to me, I kind of like him in this kind of show-me spot against the defense, where it's like, okay, I know it's the Rams, it's a division opponent. That was impressive, but if you can do this against Detroit, that's going to turn some heads and like, oh, maybe we're thinking about the Arizona Cardinals as a team that can maybe make a little run in that division. So, because I still think that division is kind of up for grabs, even though I know
especially with the Niners
are the team.
Yeah,
but with their injuries, some of these teams need to seize an opportunity. So, I like the Cardinals there. Like I said, you can either take the plus 125, plus 130 on the money line, or the plus 3. I kind of maybe trending towards money lines because I think the Cardinals may be able to pull that one out. And I'm gonna classify this as a long shot, and this is again off the momentum. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Panthers against the Raiders.
That was the third one I was just going to throw away like as another.
Yep.
Listen, just because of the momentum change, like they're getting a new quarterback. It's an experienced quarterback. And the Raiders, I know they beat the Ravens, but it's like they seem like a team. Gardner seems like an up and down quarterback. Is like I think he's on a super high, and I think the Panthers. I know they got destroyed by the Saints, and their defense doesn't look too great. But I think with Andy Dalton not turning the ball over and being a hard-nosed vet, he could maybe steady the ship to where they could be competitive in that game. And if at the least they could cover that 5.5 point spread. Because
they could lose by a field goal.
Especially with the low scoring like total.
Yes.
He's got at 40 points, like 5.5. That's a lot for a low scoring.
And to quick add on to that, I also think that Deontay Johnson is a great play in DraftKings this week because he's going to be he's very cheap. He's around the Jauan Jennings price range. He might get a lot of targets, man. I wouldn't go Leggett, but my point is, Sean, I thought you were going to say that because I was like, this is a good long shot.
I was thinking about that one. That one for sure. But Zhu kind of stole my answer because I think the Falcons on that fast track Sunday night, they might do. I don't know.
Yes.
The Chiefs didn't look good.
No.
And if they're not getting I may be wrong because can't like what would end up happening is Kelsey ends up having a 10 catch, 158 yards and 2 touchdown game because it's on a fast track Sunday night show out. Yeah. But he's not injured, and they're not involving him. And I know Rashee Rice is one of their go-to weapons, but I do think Pacheco being injured is kind of a big deal.
They have to throw it
unless they get Hunt, which I don't think they're getting him this week. Like I don't trust an undrafted rookie being
Samaje Perine. Like you just can't rely on.
I forgot about Samaje Perine on his team, but I think the Falcons coming off that big because that's a huge momentum boost going into Philadelphia and just winning that game, having that game-winning drive. So I think on that fast track, I think. And what we've been saying for a while, like Atlanta's weapons, like London, whatever about Pitts, Bijan, Mooney, even Ray McLeod can make catches over the middle. Like they got dudes everywhere. So it's like as long as they can keep Kirk upright, he's going to be able to dice, most defenses. Now Kansas City is a step up from the Eagles, but I don't know. I think if you want to take a chance, you can do that bet. I mean, I would say out of all 3 of my bets, that would be the third one I would do. I would actually probably have the Panthers one, especially them covering that spread. I would have them as the second bet I have the most confidence in. But those are 3 that I'm kind of looking at and wondering, there could be some funny business. Like, like I said, I think Arizona is going to be my number 1 pick. I
like that. That was almost my spread pick. It was very, very close because, even the first game, the Cardinals, I was impressed even with the loss of the Bills. And obviously, last week was just an offensive masterpiece.
They look good.
Like Kyler Murray, some of those throws were just immaculate. It was beautiful to watch. That deep bomb, I was like, holy cow, he is healthy. That's one thing last year he wasn't healthy. He's completely healthy, and he looks like he's that elite quarterback now.
Like when he threw, like I don't know if we're talking about the same one where he was scrambling, he was going towards the sideline. He wasn't even like his body wasn't even towards. He just
he just threw like a rainbow. Like I was like, holy cow, he's fun to watch.
This is why, like when they were comparing him and Bryce because of the size, it's like people don't understand how sick of an athlete Kyler Murray is.
Kyler Murray,
he's an insane athlete.
That one route, he's like, like freaking Madden, like. Guy's ridiculous. He's legit. A Madden character.
Everyone forgets he was the first overall pick in the MLB draft as I'm pretty sure an outfielder. He's got a cannon. A cannon that he can throw because baseball, they can throw a very different, just kind of like Mahomes. Mahomes has always been able to do the same thing. It's the shoulder agility he's got that
it's different.
It's immaculate, man.
You're looking phenomenal.
So those are our best bets of the week. Like I said, I will not guarantee that we all 3 will be hitting every week, but it is nice when we do hit, and we definitely will let you guys know about that. So make sure you're always tuning into our podcast page on Instagram, Tyson Talks _ where we're putting out different content every day. Same for Instagram, Tyson Talks _ same type of content, just a different medium. Spotify, Apple Podcasts is where you can listen to. is make sure when you are on either Spotify or Apple that you're giving us a 5-star review so we can be in the algorithms. Quantrell knows on YouTube. Same thing with YouTube Shorts. And this is where you will find this video. So make sure you give us reviews on that. Thumbs up so that can also get in algorithms. And for me, Zoo, and P-Bush, we are out.